Valet studiosi discipuli Latini linguae. Yes, this is part two of reading this horror story. Um, and I'm not sure we finish this time, but I have zoomed a lot more in, which I hope is more convenient. My microphone is still giving a low output, but I will try to speak a bit louder than last time. Yes, pregamos. Vesperi cum incolis collocutum, quia ignorabam quanta rusticitate oppidulum maledictum esset, neque superstitiosi isti agricolae, quas hucusque tendens ofenderam, videbant urbona exemplaria Christianorum virorum, nemo ecclesiam visitaverat inter diu, quam mirabar. Sola multum sedevam in ecclesia precans, aran neasque nonumquam surrepentis calcitravi, me adiote durat inertis solitudinis, ut laeto animo sola occidente, exierim locutum et ut speravam, a nos in lucem ductum. Yes. During the evening, they, no, right, this is not they. This is I went. I know that Emilia has some peculiar predilections, and I assume this is one of them. E instead of the more regular iwi or evi, right? From ire. Just so. So during the evening, I went, and collocutum, next to a verb of movement, makes you think it could and probably should be read as supine. That is to say, just like undum. So to speak, cum incolis, with the inhabitants. No, more zoom. So in the evening, I went to speak with the inhabitants because I was ignorant. I did not know with how great crudeness. There's probably a very good word in English that I'm just not remembering right now. The opposite of suave. With what crudeness the city would be cursed. Yes. So, unbeknownst to her, with what crudeness the city is cursed with, she is going to speak with them. And not not those superstitious citizens, a case of natural gender, where even though the word is feminine, or at least has a feminine form, it has a grammatical masculine gender because there are men in the group of agricolae. Whom hither, hook, hither, and usque, to, up until hither, to, up until hither, hucusque. So I assume it's ABBA. It's a, is that a chiasmus? I think so. So I am heading in a direction, heading out in a particular direction, hither up until I met which people? Coming thus far, I met, is the form here. And they seemed, with their Bantur, good examples of Christian men. So I find there's some, like, it seems like it's stated as a fact that the city is cursed with crudeness, but here they suddenly seem to be good Christian men, or to seem like that. Um, Maybe it's a complex thing. Yeah. No one had visited the church during the day, for which reason I was wondering. I was slightly, somewhat perplexed. I was wondering why. Alone for much, I sat in the church praying. Spider webs sometimes. Um, Surrepentis. Creeping, right. So I'm not exactly sure what Surrepentis, like how the spider webs are creeping. I guess they're like continually like creeping their way back for, yeah. Um, and she stomped them with her feet, the spider webs. I usually don't find spider webs in height where I can stomp them, but uh, it's probably not important. Um, and to such an extent, it bothered me. Um, and this impersonal verb works in this just in this fashion where it bothers me and a cause in the genitive. This inert solitude, um, that with a happy at heart as the sun was setting, temporal ablative, right? You could say the being is omitted, as we've seen a few times already. Um, I would go outside to speak, another supine after a verb of motion. Um, so I hoped. Um, uh, 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 and this is a bit tricky. Speravam agnos in lucem ductum. Um, yeah, I think she's like hoping to do this herself. This feels a bit awkward to me. Maybe it's completely fine. I think I'm confident the meaning is that she is having hopes about leading sheep into the light. Hmm. Um, but I don't. Yeah, yeah, it does feel a bit awkward. I don't think I can say more than that. Yeah. So she's quite alone in the church to which she's been sent. Um, and the picture of the inhabitants in this place is getting a bit more complex, at least. Iam vero etiam si vesper immaturus erat, plerique omnes homines domi inclusi erant, aliquem autem rufum virum deprehendit domum, ut apparebat tendentem qui rogatus, quid sibi nomen esset respondit, Albertus, cui ego, quid domum nondum nocte tendis, Alberta? And and truly, already, however, night or late evening, it was I think this must mean it is now truly at this point early evening, imaturos. Um, yes. So even though it now at, is only early evening, most most and all it seems a strange thing. Like either it's most or all, I would say, but okay. Um, People at home. This is a locative, particular the it's a yeah. Dom is at home. It's just what it means. Um, Inclusi, they are closed in at home. The people, or yeah. So it's already early evening, and people are locked up at home. Um, Someone, however, read. Um, Maybe there's I, I I feel curious enough to look this up. I think maybe there is some um, metaphorical meaning of this word. As you see, it means red, but is he really? No, red-haired. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So he's not red in the face. A ginger person, some ginger person. Uh, I and this looks a lot like a gerund, right? But that is I took hold of. I, I stopped. Apprehended. I think that's the right word. Um, um, Domum toward home, tendentem, um, heading, heading toward home. So I fetched. Um, I took hold of someone, Ginger, on the way home, as it seemed, heading is quite literally what it says, who um, asked, uh, presumably by the me person, what his name should be or would be, um, answered uh, Albert, to whom I said, said being implicit, of course. Um, and I think, yes, this is quite as why, that is just a thing. Um, why toward home, uh, not yet night, are you heading, Albert? So why are you heading home while it's not even night, Albert? This is maybe, yeah, it's a necessary part to the story, but like it doesn't really support well to be questioned. Why? Like, of course you're heading home as it becomes dark. Like, there's it's not really a question as far as I can tell. But yes, anyway. Stupens aliquantulum ne fas inquit post solem occasum extra eides versari, ne fas rogavi multo potentius stupens quam ille, num nescis inquit ubi sis in pontorum umbris latet, manet intuetur, antequam prosilit trucidatque, similia plurima legi in analibus nidrosiae, sed ut ante non crederam neque tunc vulgaribus superstitionibus cedebam. And being rather a little, being a little stupefied, um, you know, you're not just it's not mirror anymore. You're not just wondering, but you're caught by such a wonder that it's stultifying. Like it's you don't know what to think. Um, so being a little stupefied, it is, and I found this Yeah, it might be quite appropriate. Nefas here. It's religiously prohibited. Um, yeah, if something is nefas, it's a religious scandal to break that um, rule. Um, so you could describe crimes, egregious crimes, as nefasti. Not sure of the adjective right now, but um, so there's something religiously scandalous about doing something, describing something as nefas. Nefarious is a cognate. Mm, so I guess that could reflect upon some superstition, right? It would be a violation of a certain superstition. This following after after the set sun, after the sun having set outside of the temple. No, no, it's plural. Outside of houses, the house to be. Warsari can really just mean to be. Um, I think yeah, I think what she has in mind is Polosai in Norwegian. Um, yeah, which in English is just to be outside uh, the house. And it's religiously forbidden. She asks, or I asked. Um, much mightier, much more mightily um, stupefied than him. So he was surprised by the question, but she is even more surprised by the answer. Yes. Um, now, num. It's a particle, meaning it doesn't mean anything on its own except uh, stating that you're saying something in a questioning manner. So, which you can use with the word now in English. Now, don't you know, Miskis, said he, where you are? Uh, in the shadows of the bridges, which is a name of a place, the bridges, it hides, emanates, and it spectates, um, gazes before it jumps out and murders, slaughters. Um, the subject is not given, um, and many similar things I read in the annals of Nidaros, but as I didn't believe before, um, and then uh, and not at that point I yielded to vulgar um, superstitions, folk superstition. So previous to this point, I did not yield to um, at that point yield to folk superstitions, and thus um, ignoskimi itaque scio equidem in cui ubisim non autem credo superstitiosas fabelas num tu in cui nescis deum suosa nos pascere et fovere num credis deum relicturum. Thus, I know equidem it's emphatic. Um, why, yes, I know, you could say in English. Why, yes, I know, I said. Where I am. Um, Not, however, I believe, I do not, however, believe um, superstitious stories. Now, you, I said, do you not know God, his lambs to pasture and uh, tend to, or love, you could really say in English. Um, Now, do you not believe, or do you believe God to be about to leave me? Future participle. Um, yes. So I think that is quite clear. Yes. Si Deus est, sunt loca, quae eum non noverunt, aut quae non ipse novit. Nos non novimus Deum tantum, crucem sanctam manibus itaut agricolae gestiens signavit antequam discederet. Bene vale inquit demissa voce, si vivere in votis habes, me domum sequeret prima luce crestina fuge. If God is, if he exists, there are places where, which, um, quae eum non novunt. Yes, that doesn't know him. There are places that don't know about God. They don't experience his existence. Um, or which he himself don't know. Um, Knowing can also have the meaning of experiencing. So like it's to have like an experiential knowledge about. Um, um, we do not know God only, and here the speech is stops across the Holy Cross with the hands so that um, um, this confuses me a bit. Um, um, yeah, I hope. I suppose it's Gestians and dative um, to the farmer, to the country inhabitant, the countryside inhabitant. She is gesticulating to the agricola. Yes. So with hands, the Holy Cross gesticulating to the agricola, um, she um, this is a bit confusing because now it seems like it's suddenly like a third person narrator saying this. Like surely it's the priest doing the sign of the cross, signavit before she went. Um, Gestians. I should have looked this up better earlier. Yes. Uh, um, yeah, I it's, it's confusing who is doing it. That's the confusing part. Who like yeah. Anyway, be well, he said with a lowered voice. Um, if you and I have to admit I have not seen this construction of having to habes vivere. Um, but um, from context, we can deduce what it should mean. It's something like if you want to live in votis, I have to assume that this is to live under the vows, under the vows of the habit, being a nun. Um, me toward home, follow, and um, at the first light tomorrow, uh, flee. Um, I guess it's intending. If you intend to live under the vows, like habes plus infinitive, it must be if you. It's habere in the sense of considering. If you have in mind, if you have in mind to live under the vows, follow me home and leave tomorrow. Prima luce crastina. This is an adjective, so the first light tomorrow. Yeah, there's no way to make an adjective in English for that. So yeah, ottime. Um, pro pudor. Me monacam domum in vitavit. Erubes gens eum sine mora discedentem, semel tantum respicientem, stupefacta spectavam. Si sapentior essen, conscuta essen, vie iam hominum vacue erant, ergo ad ecclesiam tristis redire, copievam quid enim me opus, cum homines tam perteriti ac timidi in superstitionum potius quam religionem confugevant. Mecum susurrens utinam qui in propatulo monstrum non extare probare possem. And that is an exclamation. Oh, oh shame. Uh, Pewter. Isn't that an English word as well? Pewter. Um, it means sense of shame. Anywho, um, me a nun to home toward home he invited, growing red, which is to say, blushing. Um, Blushing him without delay, leaving once only looking behind himself, looking back. I watched, stupefied. If I were the wiser, I would have followed. Um, there seems to be a typo here with missing an E between the S and the C. Consecuta. Uh, I could not find a verb that is conjugated to any such form, like conscuta. It could be, uh, again, like a peculiar predilection of Emilia to conjugate in this fashion, but I don't know what like would be the source or reason for that. Um, the roads now, overall, at all, the roads at this point at all, uh, empty of men were. Um, I was a bit surprised by this because, as far as I knew, vacuus, which is the root of vacuum, um, I thought it went with ablative to be void of, but here it's genitive, and I looked it up. That's perfectly fine, and I think it's also a quirk Emilia tries to incorporate in her writing, that she later on will use this exact word with the ablative instead, but in the same exact meaning, which does happen in some Latin authors. Yes, uh, diversity, right? Um, and Therefore, toward the church, sad, I wanted to go. Um, yes. And this was a phrase I liked. What, namely, is the use of me? Opus, this is a phrase, opus est, and then the thing that there is use of, that there is use for in ablative. And me is both accusative and um, ablative in terms of form. Um, but seeing that opus is here, you want it, we want to read it as ablative. So what, namely, is the use of me? Seeing that as men are so uh, terrified, uh, so terrified and timid um, in toward superstition, rather, yeah, I guess there could be a result. This could be been a result clause that they rather take refuge in superstition rather than religion. And I think that's how far my voice gets me tonight. So certainly not finishing up tonight, but yeah, I like doing this, and in proximal. Vale.